This is ProLib Investigates, Episode 1, Elon versus Brazil. Elon Musk has surrendered to demands from Brazil that wanted 7 accounts banned from X for spreading disinformation. Chapter 1. So, how did this whole thing begin? Brazil, under Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, do apologize for my Brazilian accent, has taken a hard stance against disinformation. De Moraes has ordered numerous investigations surrounding former President Jair Bolsonaro. As a result, many of Bolsonaro's supporters have been imprisoned for what De Moraes says are attacks on the foundations of Brazil's democracy. During the 2022 Brazil presidential election, Moraes had multiple social media accounts shut down from prominent Brazilian officials who were spreading disinformation considered harmful. Many of these accounts were connected to or openly supported Bolsonaro. Musk criticizes these actions as unfair censorship and claims the people behind them are simply exercising their free speech. De Moraes believes the speech is baseless propaganda meant to harm the public's trust and sow discord, which can then be taken advantage of by bad actors like Bolsonaro and many of his supporters. Chapter 2. What happened? The 2022 presidential election in Brazil was rife with disinformation and propaganda. Over 1 billion views on YouTube by so-called Bolsonaristas between August and October 2022, tons of engagement across platforms like Instagram and Facebook, and a campaign itself that was based around junk science, falsehoods about election systems, and amplifying rumors that were known to be fake. If it sounds familiar, it's because the same thing is happening in the US right now, and has been since 2020. Several Brazilian newspapers talked about how many of the far-right propagandists were targeting the Supreme Court specifically, in an effort to undermine the institution's efforts to combat disinformation. When President Lula's election was finally confirmed, he went after these disinformation artists. The National Prosecutor's Office for the Defense of Democracy, whose Brazilian name I won't butcher with my awful accent, was to be overseen by the Attorney General and end the efforts to damage Brazil's democracy. One of the biggest of those efforts was hashtag fake news now, or no fake news. Again, I apologize for my accent, and seems to be having an effect. Brazil's electoral court has agreed with all of the major social media companies to stamp out disinformation, lies, and set reporting standards and procedures for online content deemed dangerous. During these efforts, accounts on Twitter, now X, were deemed disinformation, and the Brazilian government demanded that they be removed. Elon refused. Chapter 3. Elon does Elon things. There were several places I could have started this final chapter, but I think things really got started when Elon called Justice Moraes a dictator, and the judge responded by placing Elon under investigation for obstruction of justice, incitation of criminal activity, and the, quote, willful criminal instrumentalization of X, formerly Twitter. Moraes has said that freedom of expression is not freedom of aggression, a sentiment I believe most people would agree with who are acting in good faith. He doesn't want his country taken over by right-wing propagandists and liars, of course, but also believes people do have a right to their opinions. Elon, on the other hand, believes all speech is okay, unless you say the word cis on his website, of course, and keeping propagandists from exercising their right to spread lies and disinformation is an attack on funny memes, I guess. It's not overly clear because he's being disingenuous. If he were willing to come out and say his goal is to spread lies, to usher in a fascist utopia where he can proudly promote total control of everyone else, I'd at least respect his honesty. Instead, he plays a game of hiding behind free speech when what he really wants is the ability for him and his friends to say racist, transphobic, and sexist things with no fear of reprisal. That's not free speech, that's just state-sponsored hate with some fancy paint on it. Elon went on rant after rant after rant. I could keep going. There's like 100 of these posts on his account, accusing Justice Moraes of being a dictator. Many people brought up, though, that X, and formerly Twitter, have been banned in Russia, China, Iran, Myanmar, North Korea, Venezuela, Turkmenistan. Twitter was banned in Egypt after the Arab Spring uprisings. The point is to claim that Justice Moraes is doing something completely unheard of or radical is simply not true. I think Moraes would also point out that this is part of a propaganda campaign against him and Brazil, and emphasizes the importance of what he's attempting to do. Quote, "This is an unusual measure, but its main objective is to ensure that the court order to suspend the platform's operation is in fact effective." Felipe Medon, a specialist in digital law and professor at the Law School of Getúlio Vargas Foundation. I am so sorry about my accent. A university in Rio de Janeiro. This is what he said to the Associated Press. Moraes wanted X to appoint a legal representative in Brazil who could represent them in court because that's the law in Brazil. Elon refused to cooperate. Moraes imposed fines and had X shut down in Brazil. Elon wouldn't pay them, so Moraes froze X and Starlink's assets, a move that was criticized by some legal experts. Elon said Starlink would operate for free in Brazil and posted about Brazilians using VPNs to get around the ban, something that Moraes also imposed fines for. Finally, Elon caved. X will appoint a legal representative in Brazil and agreed to remove the requested disinformation accounts. Before the ban, X was the 9th most popular social media platform in Brazil, and many of its former users have moved on to Blue Sky and other social media platforms. It's not clear if they'll attempt to come back once the ban is lifted.